Hello, hello. Oh my word, I have an amazing episode for you guys today. I'm with an amazing guest today. I'm interviewing Danielle Eyman, a spiritual business coach and a human design and gene keys expert. And we're going to talk about how to use the power of human design and gene keys to really become unstoppable in your business. So this is going to be really powerful. Welcome, Danielle. I'm so excited for you to be here. Well, we start. Could you introduce yourself and what you do?
Yes, sure. Thank you so much for having me, Elena. So, I'm a retired registered nurse. I was a registered nurse for 24 years, and I got into entrepreneurship when I decided to close that career down and start following what my soul was calling me to do. And long story short, in 18 months, I had $1 million business, and my clients were coming to me asking me for help in their business because mine was taking off and going so well. And within 3 years, we had hit over 8 million in client results for our clients, which was it still blows me away to think about that. But all because I decided to follow what I call my soul's calling and really just turn my back on anything that, it sounds kind of trite, but that wasn't in alignment for me, that really just wasn't lighting me up and waking me up in the morning, motivating me.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. It's such a beautiful story. And I think so many people listening will relate to some aspects of it where they were in their one part of their life was this, and then there was a big shift, big transition to something so much more that lights them up. So why don't we start there? Because I think what you just said is this real alignment. I think a lot of people looking for that alignment, they're searching for that alignment, they maybe can't find it or don't know how to tune into it. So maybe when we kind of explore that space, what would be some of the tools and maybe on your examples, how can you know what is your soul's calling? What kind of work do people need to start to continue to really tap into that calling and that alignment?
Yeah, that's such a good question because I can remember when I first started learning about human design and figuring out that I had an aura and a soul. Like, I was like, what is this alignment that everyone keeps talking about? And what I realized was alignment is when your actions, your words, and your thoughts are coherent. So, there's a lot of misalignment going on, meaning we're saying we're one way and we're doing another thing. So, for example, I was saying I was healthy and I was, on the outside, it looked like I was successful. I was a registered nurse. Like I had all the overtime, all the double time. But inside, I felt like this doesn't match. Like I am drinking too much. I'm not taking care of my health like a nurse you would think would. I'm um crabby. I'm not happy with where I am and I'm just kind of going through the motions. So what I did was I took a step back and thought, okay, if I could choose my life and I could choose a life of alignment, what would that look like? And the first thing I had to do was really clean up my decision making. And that's where I believe it starts is really taking a good look at how we're making decisions. And that's what I feel like human design does a beautiful job of outlining for us. Like we literally are told, here is how you're able to make decisions that energetically support you in where you want to go in your life. And I just don't think we're just never taught that. We're never taught that the way to work with universal energy and universal intelligence is to stand in our worth around our decisions. And we're just not taught the impact, the consequence, the cause and effect of our decisions. And when I really got serious about that, alignment kind of found me. Like it's not some deep, dark, I've got to go, on an ayahuasca journey to Costa Rica for 3 months to find alignment. It's really just let me take a look at my life. Where am I not feeling like I want to show up and be a part of it here? And how can I make a decision that will put me more on that path? And as we lean in and follow that decision making that we all carry in our aura, then life brings more to us. Life opens up and starts handing things to you, You don't have to force it to happen. Alignment just starts to find you. And the more you choose the path that feels on purpose, the more you start to live in your purpose, really.
Beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I can so resonate with that. I think, and I know people listening will also resonate with this decision making. Like, we're making so many decisions every single day. Do you exercise this way? Do you exercise that way? What food to consume? And especially as business owners, there's so many decisions all the time. And I think, I'm so excited to dive deeper into this conversation around decision alignment, because it's really foundation to the path we're going to be on, the decisions that take us to either feeling happy, joyful, excited, motivated, or actually really unhappy. So let's dive deeper into human design. How can people really understand, maybe for people who a little bit familiar with human design, how can human design really help people in this decision making or alignment journey?
Well, human design teaches you that you have an energy type, a strategy, and an authority. I don't know if you want me to go into like what human design is. I feel like
Well,
there's a lot of content on what
too much,
human.
yeah. Well, what I think might be helpful if we just briefly go through different types. So if most of my listeners, they will know what a human design type they are, but maybe we'll
Yeah,
just go more about, maybe if you cover different types, and especially when it comes to decision making and
sure.
authority, how can people really think about them?
Sure, sure. Well, there are five energy types. There's a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, a manifester, and a reflector. And every one of us has a strategy and authority. And the strategy is how we listen to the universe, really. It's how we're co creating. So, a generator and a manifesting generator, the strategy for communicating with universal intelligence is to respond, to wait to respond. So it's not going out and forcing things to happen, it's sitting back and allowing life to come to you so that you can engage your authority. I'll go into the authority in a minute. Like a projector's strategy is to be invited. And that can get projectors kind of hung up because projectors love to invite themselves into conversations and add in all of their juicy wisdom and genius. But they really, in order to co create with the universe, need to be invited in because their aura is very penetrating. It's like they can see to your soul kind of energy. So it needs to be invited in because it needs to feel comfortable for us to take the guidance from the projector. A manifester is the only energy that can initiate, and that's because they've got this connection to divine. And not to say none of us, but the manifestors do. We all do in our own way. But manifestors have such a big aura energy. They're really movement creators that they have this direct connection to divine that when they get that impulse, when they get that insight, they want to move and act. And that is correct for them to actually go out and inform, let everyone around them know, hey, this is the thing I'm feeling really inspired about, or the thing I want to create. Who here is ready to help me and dive in with me? And that also sets it up to where they get rid of the people, the people who are not supporting them, move away from that. That's actually a good thing. It's I always say your manifestors are for some people and aren't for others. And that's actually like the greatest algorithm you can have is it separates your people from who's not your people, right? And reflectors, their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle, which really means give yourself enough time to feel into, get all the information you need, get your logical information, get your information from your body, get your information from the people closest around you, environments that you trust, and then go be by yourself, allow the moon to kind of run its course and come through on the other side of that with, like 80 to 90% certainty on how to move forward. So that's basically the energy types. Now, the authority is how our aura communicate. What I say is really what we're doing is we're connecting with our higher self.
Mm.
We're taught and just conditioned and programmed to lean away from our intuition, to kind of put a cap on what our body is telling us is really the next move for us or the way to go. Because we're taught follow your mind, like what is the logical next step to do, like how can you best control the outcome. And really, when we're connected with our higher self, the essence of us, without any fear, without any programming, we are completely guided just by following that energetic pull, that energetic knowing, not the mental knowing, the energetic knowing. And so there are different authorities. So like manifesting generators and generators, they're primarily sacral driven, which means there's this gut hit. There's this and it really feel, I don't know, what kind of authority are you?
Sacral, yes.
You're
So I'm,
sacral.
yes, I am. It's in the
So
gut.
you're the questions. We got to ask you the
Yeah, you
yes or
can't
no
ask me.
questions.
Yeah, I need. You can't. You need to give me choices. I think I'm like very good. Like, should we do option one, or option two? I'm very good with that. It's like, where
Yeah.
should we go for dinner? No, I don't like that.
Yeah, no, just give me two options or three options and then let's go from there. Yeah. Yeah. So the sacral is really that gut hit. When people say, you know what, I just really got to follow my gut, there's something going on in your lower abdomen that is pulling you. And the absence of sacral energy really is just, it's not right now. You either don't know enough information, you haven't been given enough to respond to, or it's just a not right now. It's a no for now. Which kind of tells, some of my clients, my MGs and generators are like, but if it's a no, then when, they get antsy because we're used to pushing and forcing
Yeah.
things to happen because we have the energy to do it, but really it's allowing that sacral body hit to be like, that's the way. And for me, I don't know about you, I'm a sacral MG as well. It feels like I'm being pulled. Like when
Mm.
you reached out to do this podcast swap, like this is funny. I had literally asked the universe, like, I'm ready for a powerhouse podcast swap. That's what I said. And then you showed up in my DMs and immediately my sacral was like, oh, yes, like in it. And it feels yummy and good and expansive. It's not always going to feel comfortable. That's the thing I think that I really should caveat our decisions with is none of this is comfortable. Like, none of this new way of making decision is really going to, it's not rainbows and butterflies. Your higher self is trying to get your attention to be like, hey, remember that plan we had before we got here? Yeah, you're off course. So now there's some big decisions and some major moves you need to make. And it's going to be uncomfortable and you have to keep leaning in. So just to caveat the decisions there, I definitely get that it's not comfortable, but it always works. It never fails. I've never seen it fail. And then we have an emotional authority who these people have their solar plexus defined. It's an emotional solar plexus. So they experience high emotional energy, low emotional energy, just all the spectrums, right? And what happens is they think they need to feel what is the next best step. And really, what that energy is there to do is give you information. So when someone comes to you and says, hey, I want you to join my thing, and you're like, yes, that's the thing, that's your high emotional scale. That's your on the high end of your wave there. Really get to know over 24 or 48 hours what your emotional wave looks like when you're super excited or when you're super, angry or triggered, like really get to know you don't know yes or no in the moment. It's really best for you to sleep on something that triggers you into that emotional reactivity. So the gem here for emotional authorities is emotional regulation. Now there's the spleen, which is, I know in the moment, it doesn't make any logical sense. It's very fleeting. It comes, drops in. Yep, it's time to do this thing. And then it leaves. It doesn't come back to remind you. So it can be difficult to hear when we're very conditioned with our mind to be like, oh yeah, but if I do that, then this might happen, right? The mind will come in and try to take us off course. But if you can get just real quiet and listen, that spleen will always fire up and let you know what's going on. Let's see, there's a will authority, which is the ego or the heart center that I tell my clients, it's what do you want? Like make sure what's coming at you as an opportunity is truly what you want, because if you want it, you can go after it and get it. Like that's it. There's self-projected authorities, which are people who need to soundboard off of trusted people in their circles to really just get reflections back on different perspectives, plan A, plan B, what are the pros and cons, those kinds of things. But then once you go back by yourself, you can really dissect it and be like, yeah, that's the way to go for me. Or, no, it's not the way to go for me. I'm thinking I'm touching on them all. Maybe I haven't
Yeah.
touched on them all, but does
Yeah.
that
And
kind of give you
I
an
love,
idea?
I love what you said there about this uncomfortable feeling. And it's so true, isn't it? And I think this is where people, I think this is the place of exploration, because especially those nudges, like especially being pulled in certain direction, doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable. It could be really scary. I certainly remember a moment where I was invited. Well, it was kind of a strange one. I really wanted it, and then kind of I got it. And this is maybe I would love to explore with you, because especially for manifesting January generators, they meant to respond, and people are like, well, I need to respond to. There's
Yeah.
always like, when is it 5 o'clock this afternoon, or like 2 o'clock? When is it coming? When is it coming? I need to plan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this responding, so actually for me there was a particular moment I wanted to do this one particular keynote presentation, and I kind of was in my things. I was like, wouldn't it be fun, wouldn't it be exciting? So it was in my mind, and then this email pops into my inbox, something relevant from this organizer of this event, was a different topic. And I'm like, oh, this is it. This is a sign. So I kind of went in and then I approached them. And then I got that keynote. But that was very uncomfortable at first. I was like, oh, should I be doing it? It's really scary. I want it, but do I want it? It's like
Yeah.
I was pulled and pulled back. I was pulled and I was negotiating with myself for probably a
Yeah.
few good days. And then I went and I did it, and it was amazing, but it was very uncomfortable at first.
Yeah. Well, what you did was you signaled to the universe with your head energy, your head and ajna energy. You're just like, this would be really cool if I got to do that. You signaled out, and the universe was like, it's in alignment for you. Let me go ahead and drop that opportunity in your inbox. And then I think what happened, because you immediately like went, oh yeah, that's it, right? But then I think what happens is our mind comes in and is like, yeah, but are you really ready for that keynote? Like, I don't know. You don't really even have a talk ready. I mean, have you worked with anybody to like make sure you're super professional? Like, do you have a certification to speak on that? The mind comes in and tries to protect us because our whole lives we've been taught, in order to be a successful keynote speaker, you have to have A, B, and C. Like, I don't know, that could be different for everyone, but most of the people I work with are like, yeah, I've always had to live this life where I get lots of certifications and then I feel like I can go out and sell something. And I'm always like, nope, that's a conditioned mindset,
Conditioning,
right? It's
yeah.
like, yeah. And so your higher self brought that to you to be like, yeah, let's go, girl. Let's do this. And you leaning in allowed her to open that door for you, really.
Yeah. So this could be a strategy, right? This could be a strategy where you are spending time alone, thinking about what's exciting, what you desire. So tapping into that, and then just not waiting, but you kind of just letting things go, and then the signs will appear. So maybe that's another
Yes.
strategy of responding. It doesn't mean that someone will perfectly craft this proposition you're looking for and it's just landed in your inbox in a perfect, packaging. It will kind of come across maybe as a board or a newspaper article or an ad somewhere, and you're like, wow, how come I'm seeing
Yes.
this now?
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to stay aware. It's like the reason this decision making works so well is because when you start paying attention, you start literally just paying attention to like, what's the song on the radio? Do I like it or not? And start playing with the universe that way. What's this Facebook group? Like, do I like it or not? What is this podcast? Do I like it or not? And as you lean in more and more to the little things, the things that aren't really going to, make or break your life, the universe is like, oh, we're playing. So let me hand you some more and let me keep raising your capacity for more. Because really, the universe's only thing here is let me raise you into who you came here to be. You
Mm.
came here to be the self-expressed powerhouse woman that, your design tells you that you are. So the more you lean in, the more opportunity you get. Right. But it'd be one thing if you're like, I want to be on this keynote presentation, and you went and emailed and emailed and emailed, and you started feeling like, gosh, I'm making all this effort and doing all this stuff and nothing's really coming from it. That is like out of alignment for you.
Because you're pushing,
Yeah.
pushing, pushing rather than
Yeah.
just.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, you being an MG, it works for me. I know there are schools of thought that it's, a manifester and generator combination is not a manifester, but for me and the clients that I have worked with, we have manifestor energy in us, so we
Yeah.
can initiate. Like, if you were to email and be like, hey, I love your message, love your concept, I would love to be of service in some way, that would be use of a manifestor energy of informing, the keynote presentation and seeing what happens, but then not really being attached either way.
Yeah. That's a great one, isn't it? Because I think, yes, I think manifest and generate, they do have this manifest energy, isn't it? And I think this is kind of a little bit confusing because you can initiate, but I think attachment is the key thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
you can ask, but don't get attached to the outcome. But I think there's power, especially with clearly with manifestors, but also probably with manifest generator in asking. Uh,
And I even say to projectors, like, you can ask for an invitation. Like, my son is a projector, he's extremely successful. And I say, honey, all you have to do is say, you know what? Can I offer you an opinion here? Or can I give you some insight here? Just ask for an invitation. And if somebody says no, no, because we're all looking for our in and our we want to be action takers and co-creators. Like, that's the language of the 3D here, is we have to take action with what the universe is bringing us so we can start playing and manifesting here.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that strategy. That's a great strategy of people listening because I know a lot of people struggling with this idea. How can I still be co-creating? How can I still be in the driving seat? And I think this is a really great tool. So let's dive deep into the gene keys. And I know for some of my audience, it's going to be a new concept. Some are going to be familiar. So maybe just briefly, why is gene keys such a great addition to human design and how they actually work in collaboration together?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So it was about a year into my human design experiment. And then I finally went, what are all these numbers on the sides of my chart? Like, what are these things? And what I discovered was their gene keys. And these gene keys are literal DNA frequency codes in our genetic makeup. And I immediately fell in this, like, I fell in love and I went, oh, this explains a lot. And I know it had to do with my experience as a registered nurse and just knowing how genetics works. And really, these gene keys carry bands of frequency on them. And these bands tell us where we're sabotaging or allowing a lower vibrational state to exist in our decisions, our actions, our words, our alignment journey, or how we are evolving from our shadow and moving into the higher frequency states of our genetic description, right? So when I found the gene keys and I discovered, key placements, I was like, okay, whoa, everyone needs to know this stuff. So I just went on this long journey of, okay, I'm going to piece this part of the human design together with this specific gene key. And if I make a decision in this way, and keeping in mind, I'm working with universal energy here, I'm always supported when I'm in alignment. I'm always going to move forward. Just keep pushing the edges a little bit more. You start to expand into the gift energy here. The gift is the higher frequency states. Really goes from like victim consciousness, life is happening to me, nothing works out for me, I'm getting tossed around here, I can't figure out how to work it down here, versus, oh, I'm co-creating, it all works out for me, all I need to do is play and remember the importance of my decisions.
Wow, I
So it's
love
like
it.
the story of the soul comes alive, really.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So is it that people just they clearly need to have a reading, but is Gene Keys work the same way as human design, that there's different types of people?
Yeah, no, gene keys read more like an oracle. So
Mm.
Richard Rudd founded the Gene Keys, and his books do a beautiful job of explaining. It gets a little esoteric, a little deep. Like, my husband's always like, Danielle, can you break this down for me? Because it's a little over my head. Like, it gets a little dense, I would say. But it's if you're looking at the Gene Keys as a description of how you typically operate, then you can see, oh, if I, for example, if I'm a manifesting generator and I have my gene key 29 in my sun gate, which is a whole nother thing. The planets are a whole nother like part of this chart that are mind bending. But if I operate in the gift energy of my gate 29, which is described in the bigger books by Richard Rudge of commitment, then I know that I'm on the right path. Like I'm moving into the higher states of consciousness. I am supported in doing that. Versus if I look at gate 29 and I know that my shadow is half-heartedness, then I know that I can't be half-ass at anything. I have to be the full manifesting generator. I have to make decisions all the way in. Like I can't be, I'll let you know. I have to make decisions, close decisions, and move forward and deal with the results of those decisions. So it's like using these gene keys to complement how you show up in the world, right? And I love taking this stuff and putting it into our businesses. Like that's why we did so well so quickly, was because I didn't worry about like, oh, let me go do market research and find my ideal client. Like I went and just went, I'm going to sell the thing I love. And my ideal clients found me
I
because
love
I
it.
spoke from this energy. Yeah.
So let's talk more about this, how people can think about using it in the business. How can this be applicable to business, creating impact, making more sales and helping more people?
Yeah. Well, I love to build the foundation of a business with these in mind.
Mhm.
If you think about human design and the gene keys, you know, your birth date and time as a imprint on your destiny, your soul destiny. You came here with something to do. Then why not start your business with this in mind? Like why not just start it and go from there? Right? So, I love to use it to build like foundational offers. I mean, one of the things that we do is like, let's look at your energy type and let's, based on what we know about your energy type, and after asking you a few questions, we can really get into what is the thing you want to bring the world. Like, what's that thing on your heart that you really want to bring the world? The thing that, by the way, most people find me when they're like, cannot get rid of this. Like, it will not leave me alone. This book on my heart, this, keynote, I want to be a keynote speaker. Like, people usually find me when they've tried like all the other things and they're like, it won't leave me alone. This soul, it's calling me. And so we kind of separate it out, like, because once you find out why, it's like it won't leave you alone. It needs to be brought out into the world. So we create offers based on very simple, what do you want to bring the world? Like what gets you up in the morning? What's your why? Right. And
Mm.
then I love to use, um, I'll give you an example. So profile lines, amazing for marketing. Profile lines are your personality. And this is something I've seen is just people will find, that they are a 1-3 or a 2-4, and they'll go, I don't like that. I don't like that I'm a 1-3 or a 2-4. And I can remember feeling that way. I'm a 1-3. And a 3 line means that you'll experience all these things and you'll always be doing a lot of failing before it clicks and works. So there's pros and cons to all these things, but when you lean in and just accept, okay, as a 1-3, I'm an authority and I really learn through trial and error, and my people will pay me to know what I've trialed and errored, and they'll save time because I've been there, done that. I know what to tell them how to avoid, right? So when you can find these little standout magnetism characteristics about your personality, then you can really hone in your marketing. And so you're speaking to the people who hear you best, right? Because we're
Mm.
also taught, and the Gene Keys speak about this, is that we are all a part of a fractal line. And our fractal line is versions of us 6 months, 3 months before us, right? We all have versions of us who are destined to work with us. They're destined to come into our business at whatever level we are at, whether we're brand new, just starting, or whether we've been in it for 20 years. There are an abundant amount of people waiting for you to show up in these frequencies. And that kind of blows people away because it totally eliminates any competition. It
Mm.
totally eliminates scarcity of like, oh, you might take my audience or what, like it eliminates that because there is literally no such thing. So I love using the profile lines. I love using, like I mentioned, the sun gate. Really just learning these frequencies, tapping in and just spending some time with yourself and saying, okay, if my sun gate is 29 and my gift is commitment, where in my life have I seen commitment energy work for me? And how can I show up and be visible to my community and build a tribe around this energy of commitment? Because if I'm anything less than that, I know I'm doing my fractal line a disservice. I'm actually not showing up as I'm destined to show up for them, and then we might miss each other in the night.
Wow. That is incredible, isn't it? I know this is like there's so many. I know everyone's listening. Certainly for me, this is incredible. I love the idea of fractal lines. That's just so illuminating, isn't it? And you know it, you feel it, especially in the kind of personal brand area. People just come to your world and they're like, I cannot work with anyone else but you. Like, I
Yes.
just, I don't, and there's actually people say it's energy, and I'm sure it is energy. And I guess it's one of the explanations of energy. We all know that we worked with mentors or some people come to your team, and you just like, yeah, we just have to work together. Like one point in the future, the timing doesn't matter, but the connection was going to happen. So
Right.
that's another explanation of that, isn't it? So,
Yes. Yeah, there's a reason that happens. Like our auras pick up energy. It happens through the phone, happens through Zoom, happens in person, but our auras are designed to pick up energy and information before our logical minds can come online. So it all happens before we can tell you why. Like if we've all had that where you walk in a room and you're like, I don't want to go over there. I want to go over there. It's like you can't really tell me why you don't want to go over there and you want to go over there, but you just know. And that's where, we've been largely disconnected from really being able to tap in and know and trust what we know, trust what we're getting
wow.
beyond what our mind is telling us.
That is so beautiful. I'm sure, presumably, this is how people meet their husbands, their partners as well, right? There must be something
I
there as well.
certainly did. Yeah. Yeah, I remember we were in a bar in Tijuana. I was in high school or college, and he walked by me and I went, "Oh my gosh, like I think I might marry him." It's just funny. Like, I didn't say anything to him about that, but we ended up getting married.
Well, it's so interesting. I remember my feelings like, for example, when you talked about going in the room, I remember going many times, go in the room and I want to maybe move in one direction, but then the fear will come in and maybe stop me for whatever reason. Um, it will stop me. So I won't do it. I won't make my moves. And I always remember leaving a party or an event highly disappointed and dissatisfied.
Mm,
Like my mission, I mean, now I understand it, but this was like years ago when I didn't have this awareness or consciousness. And I felt like my mission in that room in that moment wasn't fulfilled. And I felt so frustrated.
mm,
And it was interesting. And then, for example, the next time event will come in, and I would go in with one feeling. I will not let that feeling afterwards to happen again. I must do everything in my power to avoid that frustration for me that it was for
oh, there you go. Yeah, you're not self.
you're not self. Yeah, frustration would be a dominant feeling. Frustration, I guess, is manifest and generated. That's a big feeling for me, getting frustrated, dissatisfied.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, that's your cue that you're out of alignment in some way, right? It's one thing I probably should have mentioned is that our energy types, you have a frequency, a way of feeling that will tell you you're in alignment or out of alignment. And your quickest way to get to the alignment frequency is make a different decision, make another decision and keep going. Yeah.
yeah, and I know for as a projectors, it's a lot of bitterness. They can feel bitter.
Right. Yeah. Projectors, if they're out of alignment, they'll feel bitter. It's like a resentment chip on their shoulder kind of thing. Generators and MGs, it's frustration. And for me, I will get angry. Like I will feel
Anger.
myself getting angry. So, I mean, that's how I know, like, I have to have manifestor in me because my husband's a generator and he never gets angry. He's like, I mean, it's frustrating. Like it's a stuck feeling. That frustration just feels stuck. like you just, energy's not flowing. Reflectors are get disappointed because they live
Ooh.
in, the universe is always playing with reflectors. It's like I've never seen any energy type make more money quicker than a reflector because they don't have the sacral energy. So they get to just play in the world, and the universe is always looking to surprise them. So that's surprise versus disappointment. Like, this isn't fun here. I don't like it here. This isn't boring, that kind of thing.
Um,
Let's see, manifestors, angry. And
angry.
I've seen this kind of come out as like, even some condescending, like passive aggressive, like, well, I told you you should have done that. That kind of
Yeah,
thing, you
I
know?
told you. You didn't do anything about it.
So that's again, that's like, they really need to learn how to communicate so it's heard, because you will be supported. It's just learn to say it that way. Let's see. Did I do them all?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I think for me, anger is frustration are the biggest feelings. Frustration,
Yeah.
certainly. I get frustrated easily, and that's kind of sign. Um, anger, yeah, anger does exist. I know what anger feels like. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So that's a sign. So let's talk about the prosperity keys and how that plays into the kind of the, because I know that's where you talk so much beautifully about it, and I know it's going to be really enlightening for our listeners.
Yeah. Well, so Richard Rudd has the Gene Keys hologenetic profile, and anyone can go download it. It's on the genekeys.com website. Anybody can get it. I love to, what I have is called a wealth code blueprint, but the prosperity keys is just, it's called a prosperity sequence. And really, as you follow your keys from your incarnation cross, your genius, to the Venus sequence, which is heart opening, you get to the top where are your prosperity sequence, or your wealth codes, is what I like to call them. And it's how you are meant to serve the world. Because once we get out of our own shit, once we realize, like, oh, can take care of myself, I'm not in fight or flight and in survival, then now I want other people to feel how I feel. I want to do what I can to help other people experience the kind of alignment that I do. It feels so good. And so we naturally move into a life of service through an open heart, because we're no longer in our victim me mentality, right? So the prosperity codes are, he literally lays it out: your vocation, your life's work, your culture, your pearl. The pearl is so fun because this is your relationship to money. Doesn't necessarily have anything to do with marketing, but it's like, if you, once you start using this stuff, you become so magnetic to money. The pearl is like, now here's what you're meant to do with your money. Like, here's your role with money. So that's a fun insight. But we use life's work for visibility, branding. Like I said, mine is 29. So how can I show up and commit to my business, my brand, my image, my all the things, right? Vocation is really our core wound. So this is really interesting. It's the thing that you're healing over and over again. So you can find, like, for me it's 36. Just go into the Gene Keys book and read number 36, and it will tell you, this is the thing, the shadow, the lower victimy state that you struggle with, but you are 2 3 years ahead of somebody else, and you help them get to that gift state of consciousness just by working with them in whatever that way could be. Could be you're a coach, could be you're, doing speaking, could be just you're writing a book, whatever that is. When you look at that frequency, you can see, oh, this is my role with you. So it's like a natural stepping into, I know who I am in my business, and I know who I am to you. So you really take out I'm trying to be everything to everyone. You just take that out. I don't have to be everything to everyone. I have to lean into who I am for my people. And culture, I mean, this is kind of a fun one too. He speaks about culture as the shadow and the gift have a gateway to busting through poverty consciousness. So all of us have a conditioned story around money. Doesn't matter who you are, we all have a story around money. Even people who come to me and say, oh, I don't have any issues with money, we can usually find some shadow in the culture that you're still hanging on to, that when we move into gift through decisions and actions, suddenly the floodgates open and your culture finds you. and moves into co-creation with you. So we use those. We use Mercury for communication. We use the whole human design chart. We love to pull out like three main aspects of the human design chart, and we love to look at the energy centers to really hone in on what value do you bring, right? And owning it, because what I see is before we know that we have these cool tools like human design and the gene keys, we are really running our life from our open centers, and our open centers are unreliable. Like that's inconsistent energy. So tapping into your definition, even if you're a reflector, even if you're a projector with hardly any definition, you do have some gates and channels that we can tap into and really highlight for your fractal line to come in and find you.
Beautiful. I adore that. That's so beautiful. And is there any, I guess there's a lot of tools that help people with money blocks. I know a lot of my listeners and a lot of women have a lot of money blocks. And I guess this is where it will play out, isn't it? As part of that, especially when people live out of alignment. Is that how money blocks can appear?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, we all have stories around what money means to us, if we're deserving of it, if we have to work hard to get it, if we have to compromise who we are, if we have to bend on our core values and our morals, if we're even worthy enough to have core values and morals around money. Like we all have something. Really, the way I've seen my clients bust through money blocks is, and I'm gonna repeat this until I can't speak anymore. It's noticing how you spend your money, how you are either afraid, reactive, or avoidant with your money. Just getting really comfortable with, who am I around money? Just be radically honest. Who am I? Am I afraid? Okay, just admit it. I'm afraid. And then every time you go to take action or make a decision around money, know that's what you normally do and do the opposite. Like just do the opposite. And as we take action behind our decisions, we are in real time rewiring our subconscious nervous system. We are proving to our conscious energy we're safe to do the opposite than what we have been programmed to do.
Yeah, I love that. I heard you talk about that. I think it's so beautiful. This attachment style for money. We talk about attachment style for relationship with partners, but actually it's so true because money is just another relationship in our life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Attachment style to relationship. So actually doing the opposite. So if someone is maybe afraid to spend, and I think a lot of people will associate with this, when they spend, they get this fear or this kind of this tense feeling in their body. They're actually feeling safe in spending, or some people feel unsafe receiving. Uh,
Yeah, that's huge, especially
Huge.
for high achieving women, women who are more in their masculine and rely on their masculine to really hold them. Like that's where this glass ceilings happen, is where the masculine woman has gone as far as she can and she's still hitting those glass ceilings every month. It's because you haven't learned your relationship with money. Money is masculine. Money wants to come in and be your hero, support you, give you everything you need. But how can it when you're the one doing it, when you're the one in control? So you have to really just sit back and allow money to come in and support you. And I'll give you an example. Like when I was first starting this, like I had no idea if this was going to work. I had never run a coaching business before. I was doing $55 human design readings. I'm like, I hope this works. Really on a just a hope and a prayer that this human design stuff actually would pan out. I could get paid to do the thing I love. And what I always knew was I would never go back to like that corporate mentality where I'm going to bust my ass, I'm going to compromise my health, I'm going to compromise my sleep, compromise my own, again, alignment to make somebody else money. I'm going to do business my way. I'm going to design my business around my life. So it was like, I'm a very masculine woman. I'm a powerhouse. I'm an action taker. I go do things. And a lot of my work was, you've done enough. You've done enough. Allow it to
mm,
come. And every time I learned that balance of the masculine and feminine there is because I went, I've done enough. I know I've done enough because I've made sure that I've done enough without compromising myself. And now I'm allowing. And it showed up it shows up every single time. And I do this kind of challenge with my clients, like, go spend the thing, go spend the money, and then watch like clockwork. The universe will bring it back to you. It's the way it works.
Yeah,
We're
circulate.
not
Yeah, you
meant
don't
to hold
spend, you
on to our
circulate.
money.
Mm.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
circulate. That's what we always say. You don't spend, you circulate. It's really it's a cycle. You're not meant to hoard it. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I guess a lot of allowing comes in trust, like trusting.
Yeah.
Something like it's trusting. So you're not trying to control it. You're not trying to control the outcome where it's coming. You're just trusting it's coming. It's coming. You don't need to control it.
Yeah. And I know that's a really tough pill to swallow, right? Because most of us women were like, if we don't do it, who's going to do it? If I don't do it, who's going to do it? Like, I don't trust the universe is going to do it. What do you mean the universe is going to do it? Right? Like, it really is a trust fall in the beginning when you're starting to work with universal intelligence. You start working with your decisions, you start working with the actions you're taking and paying attention. It does feel like a trust fall. But I always tell this story because no one can tell me like, oh, I'm afraid to do it. Before my husband and I got back together, was taking child support and alimony. Again, I was like, I hope this human design business works. And I had gotten the hit from my higher self, you need to stop taking his child support and alimony. And I went, how in the hell am I supposed to support my daughter? How am I supposed to live? She said, I'm asking you to do this. Trust me. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what is happening. I called him. I said, listen, just don't let me live in a truck. I just don't let me, die. I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to work with this universe thing, make this decision and take this action. He's like, okay. So I set it up with him. I informed him, stop taking his child support and alimony. And I started hitting 20K, 30K, 40K months, never went back after that. But it's a
Beautiful.
huge trust fall. It's like I'm learning to trust this relationship I have with this thing called the universe.
I love it. That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. And it is like that. So do you have certain practices that you do? Do you meditate? Is it breath work? What are your practices to get quiet, to really listen and hear the intuitive nudges?
Yeah, every morning I have a practice of connecting. And so my mornings are very quiet. I get up, I throw on some guided meditations or just some soft music, and I start to journal. And that's where, in the morning, the veil is very thin. We're connected the most in the morning and right before we go to sleep. And so I always like to just connect anything that's on my heart, write it out. I give myself about 20, 30 minutes of that. And then I go into my day. If I never miss it because that is basically my intention setting for the day. Like, I don't go into meetings, podcasts without connecting and really solidifying that connection. And all I do is I say, I'm connecting with the essence of me of greater or higher power. You can actually feel it if you're really, making it a practice and staying with it. You can actually feel the connection, the aura kind of turn on. I activate my authority. I can feel you, authority. Thank you for showing me you're there. Like, we always want to stay in communication because our authorities, the energy that we make decisions with, if we don't use it, it's like a muscle we're not using. We don't, like, if we want big biceps, but we're not doing any bicep curls, like, we're not going to see any difference in our muscle, right? So we have to build that relationship and increase that trust with ourselves, and that's how I do it. And I connect about 3 times a day, sometimes 2, but it's priority 1 for me.
Beautiful. And what about evening? What do you have any evening routines of closing out the day?
Well, that's the same kind of thing. It's like I sit now, it's because it's kind of cold right now. I'll sit, usually I love to go outside and be in nature, but now since it's cold, we're just by the fire and we just close down the day. So I'm always saying, rinse me of anything that is not mine, clear me of the energy that is not mine,
I
Yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That is so important because I know about myself, like I recently started noticing it and taking on other people's energy. And it
Yeah.
could be just even like watching something. Like I know for me, watching something before I go to bed is an
Yes.
absolute no-no.
Yeah.
Like a Netflix show, because I will literally take on the energy of the show.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens, right? Like you can feel it now. And we
Now
didn't even
I
know
feel
what
it.
that was before. We're just like, wow, why do I feel like this?
Yeah,
But it's really interesting if you start just experimenting going into like grocery stores or, different networking events. If you walk in and then you leave, notice how you feel before you walked in and notice how you feel after. Don't make any decisions, don't take any action until you give yourself 20 to 30 minutes to decompress your aura. That goes for watching shows, all of that stuff. Just really allow your aura to do what it does, which is decompress itself of anything that is not yours.
yeah, absolutely. And especially negative feelings. Like one of the things that's if it's negative or somehow just a lot of sadness, like for no reason, I'm like, wow, this is not my energy. I've just taken on somebody's energy. And we all know this, right? We know we go into a meeting, we go to this event, and you just speak to this group of people and you just feel drained or like this energy vampires. We feel it. We know what it's like. Or people will have this one relative or this one friend that every time they interact with them, they will feel like, oh my word, it's just they're feeling it, the aura is feeling it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being aware of that. But also I think I love what you say, like saying those words, cleanse me of any energy that's not mine. What a
Yeah.
great mantra.
Yeah, I love to speak out loud and say those things because we literally are working with energy, and our throat energy center is our powerful manifestation center. So the universe is at our command. All we have to do is ask and command and be grateful. All of this stuff only works when your attitude is shifting from I'm a victim, everything's happening to me, to curiosity. How could this work? Let me try it. It doesn't hurt to try. Let me lean in. Let me make a commitment to do this for the next 30 days. Let me just see how it feels to lean into this new decision making, right?
I love it.
If we're staying open and curious, we will always get the support and we'll
Yeah,
see it as support.
so beautiful. And is there, I'm just curious, is I feel like a lot of this work women do. There's I don't know whether I don't know enough to be fair to make any judgment, but I feel like men, and I feel like women are seeking, they're searching, they're having those nudging, they're having those experiences, and they're looking, they're so open to explanation, they're so much open to universe. And I wonder why men are not in the same way open to it. And maybe some are, maybe some aren't. So indeed, so I guess I don't know. But yeah, just my superficial view of that, it just feels like
Yeah.
women are more open to this.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like we are on the rise. Like the feminine energy is on the rise. So women are, I mean, when I started doing this, I was like 2020, a little bit before 2020. And even then it was like human design, Gene Keys, like woo. It's like considered woo woo or like, I don't know, something you can't trust. Woo to me is just anything you don't understand because it's
Yeah,
like, it's just what you don't understand.
it's like physics.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really do believe that as women lean in, which I'm seeing more and more women, like high achieving women, women who have seen great accomplishment in their life, go, this isn't it. Like, this isn't it. And as the women lean in and own it, then the men rise. And
Ooh,
that's what happens. Like, when my family all came back, we all decided to do this business together and, really be in this. There was nothing in me that wavered on this. Like, it wasn't like, well, sometimes I mean, this is a really cool thing. And sometimes we work it and sometimes we don't. It was like, no, this is how we run our lives. Like, I have this energy of this is the way I do it. And I don't do it the other way we used to do it. Like, I don't believe that that's how I have to do it any longer. And as I stood in my, I mean, I would say confidence, but just my knowing,
mm.
I have 2 boys and my husband, they all rose and went, "Mom, everyone needs to know this. Like, everyone needs to know this." I won't say like they're not as deep into it as I am, but they see because they've lived 2 different lives where we've lived it all corporate and doing what everyone else told us to do versus actually I'm the authority in my life and I'm deciding what I want to do. So we've seen it both ways, but I'm seeing the men wake up. I know I have circles out here where we are in with, um, you know, spiritual groups where sometimes the women are dragging their husbands, but they're open to it. They're, let me
Beautiful.
try the breath work. What is the drum you're using? Like, what is the meditation you keep talking about? What is an inner child? Things like that. Like they're opening their mind. But I feel like the trend and the way, just the energy that I feel is women are standing in their feminine power a lot more.
Yeah, so true. There's definitely a rise. There's a rise. I think the rise has been happening since 2020, but I think there's a huge shift, as you rightly say. A lot of those things that now kind of mainstream that everyone understands, talks about in certainly in many circles, where before it wasn't even talked about. Uh,
Right.
when now there's actually, but also like quantum physics. There's so much research to say actually this energy things that's in the spiritual world people were talking for years. It's actually proven. There's data that shows it.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. It's pure science.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Beautiful.
mean, that's what I found when I was like digging into the gene keys and really learning the genetic makeup and then understanding, oh, a decision is using my throat energy and the action is solidifying that throat energy. That's how I do it here. I just feel like my nursing background just helped make it scientific to me because there's never been a doubt to me, like, is this real or not? Like I've always seen it as a little more sciency.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. As we speak, in one insight I kind of got, intuitive, I was just interested when you think about it. It kind of came to me that a lot of my decisions come through speaking with other people. And I kind of
Mm,
know it sometimes. I do a lot of verbal processing. Like if I don't understand something, sometimes the fastest way to me understanding myself is when I talk it through with someone. I'm
right.
doing this verbal processing, but actually thinking about a lot of my decision making sometimes comes in the conversation. Like even as we were speaking, there's a couple of decisions I just made unrelated to what we were talking about. And I was like, wow, this is how I also make decisions. I make decisions inside of other people's energy, inside of the conversation that actually kind of confirms what I have been thinking about. A little bit off topic, but I wondered if there is something in it.
Well, what I think's happening is, and I'd have to see your chart, but what's happening is your aura is connecting with mine and something's moving to give you the information you need. So it's, I mean,
Hmm.
it's probably been, has it been decisions that have been on your mind or things you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Yeah. So it's just energy is moving. So I don't know if you even know your definition, if you're a single definition or a split definition or
I'll have to check. I don't think I know actually. I'll have to go back. I can't remember off the
there's
top of my head.
there's so many intricacies in
So
this
many
chart. It's like,
intricacies.
yeah. But and that's, I mean, pay attention to that because if you like that, then that's like helpful to know. But if you start making these decisions and you go out and you start taking action on those decisions, you're like, yeah, I don't know if I even like that result, then just pay attention. It's like that's the trial and error process of really just learning how you interact with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. It just confirms how important it is to understand the science behind each individual. So, if someone's listening, they want to dive deeper into your world, they want to learn more about what you do, the spiritual business coaching that you do, your programs. First of all, I know, let's talk about the Wealth Code Blueprint and how can people get access to this. And we certainly leave any links into the show notes. But yeah, tell us a bit more and also where they can find you. Where's the best place to reach out?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Wealth Code Blueprint, I'm think I'm most proud of that right now. We just launched it. It's our basically we're giving you what I speak about the wealth codes. We're giving you what matters in human design and what matters in the gene keys. We're putting it together into one booklet and anyone can grab that. There's a $9 version, which will totally set you up, or there's a $99 version, which will totally set you up. It's like a 50+ page document. So I've tried to put foundational aspects in there, but really something that people can use to start taking action on today and see results. So that's like the easiest way to get into my work. I'm on Instagram at the Danielle Eyman. And I love my podcast. I do a lot of value in that podcast. They're like mini master classes. And that's the Wealthy and Aligned by Human Design podcast. And yeah, you can find me over there in Instagram. I'm all over the place.
Amazing. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Danielle. This was wonderful. And I know there were so many amazing insights for our audience. I loved it. And I just cannot wait for people to experience more of your energy, dive deeper into your world. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.